My neighbor told everyone I built my fence on his property. He forgot the survey stakes were buried under his new flower bed. When my wife and I bought our house, one of the first projects we tackled was replacing the old, rotting wooden fence between our backyard and the property next door. Before spending nearly $11,000 on the project, I hired a licensed surveyor because I wanted everything done correctly. The survey crew marked every property corner with steel pins and bright orange stakes, measured the boundary twice, and gave me a signed survey map showing every measurement. The fence company built everything exactly where the survey indicated, and before they left, I even walked the property with the foreman to double-check every section. For almost 2 years, nobody complained. The neighbors were friendly, and life was peaceful. Then our neighbor, Kevin, decided to completely renovate his backyard. He removed several old bushes, built a large stone patio, installed a decorative retaining wall, and planted expensive flower beds right along what he believed was the property line. About a week after finishing the landscaping, he knocked on my door holding a tape measure. He claimed my fence was nearly 2 feet onto his property and demanded I remove it immediately. I showed him the original survey map, but he refused to even glance at it. Instead, he started telling neighbors I'd stolen part of his yard and rushed the fence installation before anyone could stop me. Before long, people walking their dogs would slow down and glance toward my backyard like I'd intentionally cheated my neighbor out of part of his property. For the first time, I honestly started questioning myself. What if the survey crew had somehow made a mistake? Rather than argue, I called the same surveying company that had completed the original work. The owner immediately remembered our property because the lot lines were unusually shaped compared to the surrounding houses. He agreed to come back and verify everything. 2 days later, the crew arrived with GPS equipment, tripods, and professional metal detectors. Kevin stood outside recording the entire inspection on his phone, convinced they were about to prove him right. At one point, he even joked that I'd be paying for a brand new fence before the weekend was over. About 30 minutes into the inspection, one surveyor stopped near Kevin's brand new flower bed and asked whether he'd recently brought in fresh soil. Kevin proudly explained that he'd spent several weekends hauling in truckloads of topsoil and mulch before planting everything himself. The surveyor smiled, switched on a metal detector, and slowly swept it across the edge of the flower bed. Within seconds, the detector began beeping loudly. After carefully digging through several inches of soil, they uncovered the original steel survey pin that had been installed years earlier. It hadn't shifted even slightly. It was sitting exactly where the original survey said it should be, buried beneath Kevin's new landscaping. Then the lead surveyor stretched a measuring tape from the buried survey pin directly to my fence. The fence wasn't on Kevin's property. It wasn't even close. It had actually been built 4 inches inside my own property line. To prevent exactly this kind of dispute in the future, Kevin stared at the measurements without saying a single word. The surveyor handed both of us a freshly certified report, confirming the original survey had been accurate from the very beginning. My fence had never crossed the property line. The only reason Kevin believed otherwise was because he'd accidentally buried every visible survey stake while landscaping, then convinced himself the property line matched the edge of his flower bed. Ironically, the landscaping project he'd been so proud of had hidden the very evidence proving he was mistaken. A week later, Kevin walked over carrying 2 cups of coffee. He apologized for accusing me in front of the neighborhood and admitted he'd let his frustration get ahead of the facts. We ended up talking for almost an hour, and before he left, we agreed to split the cost of planting a row of privacy trees along the property line. The following spring, by the end of that summer, we were borrowing each other's ladders and helping with weekend yard projects like none of it had ever happened. Looking back, I realized property disputes usually aren't really about fences. They're about assumptions. The fence never moved. The property line never changed. Only one person's belief did. Sometimes the truth isn't hidden because someone covered it up. Sometimes it's buried just a few inches beneath the story people have already decided to believe. Would you have accepted Kevin's apology or kept your distance after he accused you publicly? Yes or no?